You're welcome to join us with your thoughts, comments, and contributions through our WhatsApp page +2332070646880 or on Facebook, Africa Global Radio. Twitter AF Global Radio is the handle. Tweet using the hashtag The Africa Daily Show. All right, all set here. Hafiz Gunu is seated. What's up?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Quite excited about Messi's move, aren't you? Super excited, eh?
Yeah.
I mean,
from a footballing perspective.
I know, right? Okay, so let's leave Messi alone and let's have mercy on some women. Right. I mean, today we're looking as part of the whole South Africa Women's Month, which is very important. Looking at trailblazers, trailblazing women in South Africa, setting the pace, making society a better place, and of course, serving as inspiration to the younger generation. Talk about the woman and then the girl child. Hafiz.
Yeah, the month of August, and we are looking at women in South Africa.
Right.
And the thing is, it's a month dedicated to, the celebration and recognition of women. And women of South Africa, that is, both past and present, just to appreciate them. Now, for one to fully appreciate what the strength of the South African woman is like, and what it means to be, a woman in apartheid South Africa, you have to go back in history.
Right.
Yes, just so for a little bit of context to understand what it was like to be a woman in such an era.
Right.
Now, for starters, South African women, couldn't find jobs. It was very difficult to secure jobs during the apartheid era as a woman in South Africa.
Yeah.
Now, for those that could secure these jobs, they were paid next to nothing. Yes, chicken change, if you would like. And so this situation left a lot of women depending on their spouses. Basically, their husbands that had to travel away for, long periods of time, travel away just so they could make ends meet.
Right.
And the situation came to a head when they even implemented, the pass system where you needed to carry a pass to be able to access the white-only areas.
Whoa.
And eventually, this whole thing, culminated in the 1956 march on the Union Buildings in Pretoria, where some 20,000 women, came in there in their numbers just to...
Enough is enough.
Yes, in protests. And what was seen in just 30 minutes of loud silence, they sent home the message that enough is enough. Now, that was apartheid South Africa for a woman. Now, let's come into present-day South Africa. Ask yourself if how safe is South Africa for the South African woman? How have situations changed for the South African woman? Now, to answer this question, I think some two journalists decided to do a ranking
from South Africa.
No, not they're not from South Africa.
Right. Okay.
Some two journalists decided to do a ranking of some 50 countries to determine which country was safe
across the world.
Yes, for female travelers.
Right.
Female visitors. Now get this. Now they did this based on certain indicators.
Okay.
Yes, indicators such as the street safety for women, legal discrimination, gender inequality indexes, violence against women. All these,
all manner of,
but these are some of just to mention that a few, yes. But these were some of the indicators they used to find which country was, favorable to women. Now, interestingly, after the study, South Africa emerged as the least friendly country to women globally.
Whoa.
Yes. And in that study, it is estimated that over 40% of South African women will be raped in their lifetime. Now, of the
40%?
Yes. I remember you talking about it. One of the segments. Now, that of the women who were asked if they felt safe walking alone at night. Now, get this. Only 25% of South African women said yes.
Only 25%
of South African women said yes.
So we have 70% of women saying no.
Almost. So that is what it feels like to be a South African woman in present-day South Africa. And I remember even the current South African president Ramaphosa, one time saying that sexual violence is a national, it's a second national pandemic that they have to worry about.
That's a big problem.
So that's a huge indictment on a nation.
On
like,
women, yeah.
Yes, on South Africa as a nation, anyway, in its quest to be able to provide a safe space for women.
Exactly.
Now, so based on all this that I've said, you can see why a day such as, or a month such as August, the month of August, to actually, celebrate women and also have some of these uncomfortable conversations surrounding, women and what it feels like and how it can, the situation can best
be handled. Yeah.
To have women feel a lot safer.
More safer. True.
Now, yes, and in that regard, we at Africa Global Radio also want to. We are actually celebrating women. We are actually, yes, and in that regard, looking at the Trailblazers, those that contributed in one way or the other, past, present, depending on which, and that have actually lived an exemplary life for others to emulate. And for me, based on the fact that I started on the sexual violence angle and what it means to be, as a woman, and having your sexuality threatened every now and then. For me, one lady that I feel is a trailblazer is one lady known as Cheryl Zondi.
Okay.
Yes. Now, Cheryl Zondi, if you monitor her case, was a lady that was stood in court and testified against, a young man or a pastor that allegedly raped her, or a rapist, basically, in the face of all the threats and attempts to try to silence her. Yes, she refused to be one of those faceless victims of sexual violence. Anyway, so and eventually something was done, and this, this act of defiance actually encouraged a lot more women to step forward, to come forward, because this is a country that, and it was a high-profile case because in 2006 something similar happened with one lady known as Crazy. Now, this lady in question in 2006 was accusing then ANC Deputy President Jacob Zuma.
You got to be kidding me.
Of allegedly raping her.
Whoa.
And
that's a big case.
Yes, that was huge. And guess what happened to this lady? She was slut-shamed, she was called names, all kinds of things.
She wasn't even listened to.
Exactly. And eventually she had to flee the country. Jacob Zuma got acquitted. Eventually went on to become what? President, and well, you know the story.
Yeah, exactly. The rest is history.
So So for me, Cheryl Zondi, for me, it's one of those women that it's never easy to come forward, and especially in a country that it's not so safe to be a woman or walking alone even.
You'll be thinking about what comes next when I come out like this, right?
For me, one trailblazer is Cheryl Zondi.
Right, absolutely true. It gives that courage for other women in similar positions, because every now and then we hear conversations about don't be shy about it. Be brave enough to talk about it, because you keep it inside of you. You're hurting, and it actually leads you to committing some, acts to yourself. Sometimes even committing suicide, which is not the way to go. So yeah, we're encouraging people to do so. And for such a lady, regardless of all of the threats, the comments by societies and what have you, she came out and made a difference. And I think that's very, very commendable. Epi.
Barry.
Yeah, South Africa is one of those countries that I think I would want to say, per my own rating, I think like every person in Africa, around the world, will go to, because of the nature of their high tourism, nature. It's like South Africa, travel flights, SA, and everything,
Not really.
Not really?
For me.
No, not now. Not now, But the thing is, but unfortunately,
Right now, no.
Women matters here.
Yeah. When I first talked about the women, almost 40% of them getting raped. Yeah, I remember there was a time that they had to actually put out a demonstration. They literally had to go out there and act against it, and it was bad because most of the ladies and the women, that's what the demonstration mainly was by mothers, actually, because they were scared for their daughters.
Yeah.
And the thing with that is you actually, it's different. It's none of the two of the lesser evils, none of them is good. But then you get raped, you come home, you're taken care of or something, or probably you still live. But then you get raped, then you're killed. You're literally mutilated is another thing, and that is something that majority of the women there were going through. It was a big thing. They had to actually demonstrate against it.
Right.
That was earlier this year. It wasn't good at all. So I really get it.
Sympathize with them, huh?
Yeah, I do. And sometimes you look at where all these things. I mean, why should somebody look at you and feel like you're something I can have? You're something I should have.
Yeah.
And so when you say no, then they don't understand why you're saying no. So then it means that I need to have you, I will have you. So then force must be applied.
Right.
Because I tried to reason with you, it didn't go through. And all this comes down from discrimination, gender discrimination. And we've had a lot of people trying to fight it and fight for the rights of women in South Africa. One of such good people, great people. You're talking about Helen Suzman.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of her, but even her case was a bit, I didn't say tricky. She actually had to stand against the lot. Not just for the fact that she was a woman, but in the fact that she was white.
Okay.
She was Jewish. Her parents were Jewish, but she was born in South Africa.
Okay.
And then she actually managed to get into parliament. She actually stood for a parliamentary contest, and she won. That was in the year 1953. She won it. And then, yes, she got in there. And later on, she decided to break off from the United Party, which was the main party then, because she realized that, look, these are all South Africans, and we need to actually give them equal rights as we also have.
Right.
But then this was weird for most of the people, and they didn't want to agree. Most of the people of the United Party were against it. So then she said, look, I'm going to break off from the United Party. And she didn't just do this alone. She actually had 6 other colleagues, and then initially 12 MPs joined her in the year 1959.
Okay.
So then they formed what they call the Progressive Party. And then they decided to keep an open mind in the sense that South Africans deserved equal rights, so we had to give it to them.
Right.
So that's what they were fighting for. But then in the 1961 elections, unfortunately, out of all the 12 MPs, 11 got cleared. She was the only one who retained her seat. And that made it more difficult for her. Now, she was white, and she was speaking for the people that, I mean, they didn't think she should be speaking for. And the fact that she was a woman in the midst of all the men made it even more difficult for her. Exactly. But she still stood her ground. She fought for it, equal rights for South Africans. And then she started focusing on gender discrimination. She realized, look, you can't do this. It's not right. Women need access to everything that we're giving the men access to. So she started fighting for it, campaigning, setting up foundations, and it went to a point. Now, she actually even went around to Robben Island, where they were keeping Nelson Mandela at that time, and she paid him a visit so she could actually look at the living conditions of, I mean, some of these political prisoners. And she decided to fight also so that they could actually improve their living conditions.
Okay.
So this is not just somebody who's just stood for something. She's fought for a lot of things. She's actually gained a lot of things, paved way for women to be able to say, we can, we will, and we should.
Okay.
I mean, for her to be in parliament against all that number of people, at first she had support, then she lost it, and then she was alone. And she stood her ground, and she got more support later on. So Helen Suzman is somebody I feel we should all look at when it comes to women trailblazers in South Africa.
Right. Okay. The numbers keeps going. The list unlimited, I must say. And yeah, there are a lot of them. In as much as that's the thing about it. You know, you find out that not just about the women or matters relating to the women alone. You still find some women, actually fighting for the rights of even the men. And just like what the figure Helen Suzman rather, was doing, and I think that's an incredible thing to do. And of course, this cuts across, from the colonial era to the current generation, and that's very laudable. Let me hear Mami.
Hi, Barry.
You're a potential tourist.
Yes.
Right.
I am.
Yes, with capital letters. Easy there. Right.
I am. Yeah. I actually
Trailblazers in South Africa.
In South Africa.
Women, huh?
Yes. So, one of the women that I believe, Hafiz has mentioned, one or two. Epi has mentioned, you mentioned some.
Right.
The woman I picked for today is Zuleika Patel.
Zuleika Patel.
Now, Zuleika Patel is a South African young woman who is an anti-racism activist.
Okay.
She was born to an Indian father and
Right.
a South African mother. Now, she became a symbol of anti-racism at the age of 13.
13.
At the age of 13.
Wow.
And this happened when she led a demonstration with her friends against a hair policy that was issued out by her school, the Pretoria Girls High School.
Okay.
So the policy said all hairstyles is an all-girls school.
Okay.
And then the policy said all hairstyles should be conservative, neat, and in keeping with the school uniform.
Okay.
And teachers had told the students that their afro hair is exotic and needed to be tamed. It implied that their girls' hair needed to be straightened or tied back and not worn as afros. So this is what triggered Zuleika Patel to lead a demonstration that not only led to a change in the school's policy, but also an inquiry into allegations of racism at the school. Now, during the demonstration, she was quoted saying this: "Asking me to change my hair is like asking me to erase my blackness."
Wow. That's tough. I mean, that's what the African Americans are. That's real. Yeah, that's real.
And I remember Epi reading a story sometime about how a young boy in the U.S. was denied entry into school because he had afro.
Right. Yeah. Got that kinky hair.
And I think all of these stem from the fact that the school used to be an all-white school until the end of apartheid. So then, when you go to the school, you have dreadlocks or you have afro.
You're not permitted.
It is not in line with the school's policy. So she actually stood up with her friends and led a demonstration that led to the policy being taken away.
Wow.
Then investigation started into racism. Into racism in the school. And I think this is a great feat.
And actually today you can find
yes, and she's actually what she's doing right now is she has written a book.
Okay.
She's an author now that she's hoping will reignite the passion for black hair and African literature. So the book is titled My Coily Crowny Hair.
Right.
And she's saying that when she's a child, she used to read books. When she opened children's books, she came across stories that were not of her African reality. There were stories about little girls with blue eyes, blonde hair, and fair skin.
Okay.
And that was not how her African reality looked like. So the book centers on a 7-year-old Lisa Kaya, who is encouraged by her mother and grandmother to love her hair.
Right.
Something Patel drew from her personal childhood experience. I think this is actually great.
Yeah.
Because then it's not just teaching girls in South Africa, it's teaching black girls in general. And we find ourselves in a day and age where black women are starting to love their hair, they're starting to love their skin.
Right.
And if we're finding books where children, I mean, we grew up and all the dolls we had were fair and had straight hair.
Yeah. Barbie. Oh, y'all go take off Barbie off.
So if this is something she has taken up, it's something she took up and when growing up at the tender age of 13, I think she should be celebrated. It's actually an outstanding feat. And I'd like to mention one other woman. So she is an actress. She's called Imambato Mocho.
Okay.
And what she does is she's using acting as a way to raise awareness on women's abuse and the rights of foreigners seeking refuge in South Africa. So she directed a play titled Frontiers, in which she starred at Johannesburg Market Theatre in June. And what the play did was it shone the light.
This year?
No.
Okay.
What the play did was 2019.
Right.
What the play did was it shone the light on the struggles of migrants from Zimbabwe, DR Congo, and Cameroon in South Africa.
Wow. I'm loving this. I mean, the whole, fusing it into something that people would entertain.
Yes,
yet
I mean
learn
something that
lesson out
people
of
will
it.
learn lesson from, and we've seen how foreigners from different lands are treated.
Oh yeah.
So if a South African is standing up for these foreigners and using her voice to create awareness on the plight of these people, it's like, then you should know that this is something that is worrying.
Exactly.
And if, let's say, a celebrity, you know how people look up to celebrities.
Oh yeah.
So if a celebrity is using her voice to fight for foreigners in her homeland, then this is something amazing. She's doing something great, and I believe we should all give her the support.
Right. Talk about women trailblazers. A very special good afternoon going out to Her Excellency the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, Her Excellency Lulu Zingwana. Yeah, so I mean, it takes a lot of build up in terms of trying to get women to get positions that are seen as male dominated spaces. I mean, initially growing up, my dad is more of like a diplomatic worker, so every ambassador I have seen or my dad worked with is a male figure. From Tanzania to Namibia to every male figure. The first day I heard he was mentioning that there's this first ambassador that she's a female, and I'm like, okay, so do we? At that point I felt like a woman can also be an ambassador. How ignorant I was, But a very good afternoon going out to Her Excellency Lulu Zingwana. That's the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana. Hafiz, let's go back a bit. I think the story of Sarafina, I think that figure Sarafina is a character that she played, and I believe it's representing the role that particular female. What's the title of the movie?
Sarafina,
I know Sarafina, right?
Sarafina.
And I'm saying that's the name of. Have you watched the movie before?
I can't remember the plot.
It seems you're lost. But then the thing here, what I'm trying to connect here is, Sarafina is more of like one of the main characters, like the main character of that movie.
The depiction of the protest.
Exactly. So you notice that a female figure there was spearheading, the whole thing, the whole changing of the the reform generally that took place back then. Yeah.
But usually when you look at movies that stems from real life events,
true stories.
You might want to be careful when you try to use it in your factual, because the thing about movies is that it's made for entertainment purposes. Okay. So there are times they
could twist a few things,
or add certain things in.
Right.
Yes. So it's not exactly a good point of reference.
It's not so are you saying it doesn't reflect
some of the
reality?
Things are embellished. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Some of the things in there are embellished.
No, but I'm just making a point.
I'm
not saying that's the exact thing that happened, but it looks like it, because when you watch the movie. Sarafina is more of like the star of the movie. She's here and there leading protests and everything. Right. Anyway.
Yeah, but speaking of women, like you mentioned, now let's look at it differently this way. Now, the next person, or this is not actually a person, it's actually groups of women. Yes, so they call themselves the Black Mambas.
Oh.
Yes. And
you might want to take up that nickname, huh? She's happy already, mommy. Right. Let's move on.
Now, yesterday we sat here and talked about poaching, elephants and what have you. Now, this is an all-female anti-poaching unit.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, and they have come together to actually, protect the rhino population.
Wildlife,
yes. Specifically the rhino population.
Rhinos, yeah.
Where they call the Balule Nature Reserve.
Okay.
Yes. And they're actually getting results. That is, since they started, I think it has led to a 63% reduction.
63?
In the incidence of poaching.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. And we are talking about an all-female unit. Yes, that have taken it upon themselves to do this.
Right.
And I find that interesting, one, because, it's quite brave if you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are talking about poaching. Yesterday I mentioned the fact that
you
now it's gotten more sophisticated.
Well trained and all.
Exactly. We are talking about military-grade weapons and everything. Exactly. Yeah, with, crime, syndicates and everything getting on this. And you have just some 36 women, coming together and saying, we want to protect the rhino population.
Right.
And the thing about rhinos is that, they don't have ivory in their horns. So
it's not an ivory. I know there's something there.
It's a horn, but there's no ivory in it.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
The ivory is the white.
Yeah, in the
tusk. They don't have it, but what they use their horns for is for some medicines, for medicinal purposes in China also.
Yeah, I know. You already mentioned that.
Exactly. So that is why they are protecting the rhino population. Why they are protecting the rhino population, and like I mentioned, it's quite brave, given the risk associated with it. And also, like you mentioned, it's a male-dominated space. You mentioned rangers, and you don't exactly picture women, sticking, being in such a space. But here's the situation where you have women coming together and be like, okay, well, we need to take it upon ourselves and do this, and I think that's quite admirable. Anyway, so thumbs up, the Black Mambas. Yeah.
Thumbs up, the Black Mambas. Where did I hear that name before? Is it in a movie? Kill Bin. No, Kill Bin. No, Black Mamba can be associated to Kobe Bryant.
Kobe, yeah. So,
but I thought that there's this movie, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's okay. All right, thank you very much, guys. The show is Africa Daily on Africa Global Radio. We don't really have much time, but maybe real quick from Epi, you want to top it up?
Yeah, so the second person I wanted to talk about was Major Mandisa Nomsebo Mfeka.
Take us to the military camp. Salute! Okay.
Well, she is the first person, or the first black woman to be a South African combat fighter, pilot major.
Wow. Right.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we just had to go to the camp. Come on, guys.
I can't believe this.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, she's the first black woman to be a South African who is actually a combat fighter pilot.
Right.
And she actually works with UN to protect South African borders. So, if they notice anything strange or, I mean, there's something, in some form of threat seems to arise, she's actually the first to go and then investigate and, if need be, engage the enemy.
Salute to all women, specifically South African women, because this month is your month, and kudos for the efforts you've put in and the pavement or the roads you've actually carved for the younger generations to also follow. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us on the discussion zone. You can also listen to it later on demand on africaglobalradio.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel and get daily alerts of segments of the Africa Daily Show. If you're a Vodafone subscriber, you can listen to the segments as well via Viamo 321. Get access to that to our listeners in Nigeria, Viamo, if you're an Airtel network.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe, and share.